ChatGPT said, over 60 the one snack that destroys your heart arteries. And the simple fix, when we talk about the health of your heart after the age of 60, what you choose to eat every single day plays a much bigger role than most people realize. Many seniors believe that as long as they avoid fried foods or processed fast foods, they're safe from artery damage, but the truth is far more surprising. There is one particular snack that is so common, so easily available, and so often thought of as harmless, yet it silently contributes to plaque buildup, inflammation, and the narrowing of arteries. This is not about the occasional treat, but about something that people keep in their kitchen, something they reach for while watching television, reading, or even when they're trying to avoid junk food. Unfortunately, this everyday snack creates the perfect storm for artery damage, which in turn raises blood pressure, increases the risk of heart attack, and accelerates aging in your blood vessels. The reason this snack is so dangerous lies in the way it interacts with your body's inflammatory response. After 60, your arteries naturally begin to stiffen, and the protective lining of your blood vessels, known as the endothelium, becomes thinner and more fragile. This makes your heart more vulnerable to the foods you eat. The snack in question is packed with refined carbohydrates and unhealthy fats that create sudden spikes in blood sugar. Every time your blood sugar rises sharply, your arteries face oxidative stress. Imagine tiny scratches being made on the inside of your arteries over and over again. Your body, in response, sends cholesterol and immune cells to patch up those scratches. Over time, instead of healing, the arteries become clogged with sticky plaque that narrows blood flow. For a 25-year-old, the body may handle occasional spikes, but for someone over 60, the damage accumulates much faster, often without symptoms until it's too late. You may already suspect what this snack is. It's the so-called low-fat crackers, cookies, or even certain cereal bars that are marketed as healthy options. They may look innocent, and some are even labeled as heart-friendly. But when you look closely at the ingredients, you find refined flour, added sugars, and hydrogenated oils. These elements combine to form the perfect trio for artery destruction. Seniors often keep these snacks on hand because they're easy, cheap, and sometimes even recommended as lighter options compared to chips or fried foods. Yet, every handful is pushing the arteries closer to stiffness, inflammation, and restricted circulation. Some of these snacks contain trans fats in small amounts, hidden in the label under partially hydrogenated oils, and these fats are known to directly attack the heart, raising bad cholesterol while lowering the protective kind. For someone over 60, this is a direct pathway toward cardiovascular decline. What makes this problem worse is that the effects don't show immediately. Unlike stomach upset or bloating, artery damage is silent. You don't feel plaque forming. You don't notice the microscopic tears in your vessel walls. You don't wake up suddenly with clogged arteries after one snack. Instead, it happens gradually, year after year, until the arteries are so narrowed that your blood can no longer flow freely. This is when the first warning sign often appears: shortness of breath when climbing stairs, chest tightness, or fatigued after a short walk. But by the time those symptoms appear, the process has been ongoing for years. That's why understanding the impact of these everyday snacks is so crucial. It's not about fear or guilt, but about knowledge, because once you know, you can take simple steps to protect yourself. The good news is that there are simple fixes that not only replace these artery-destroying snacks, but actively help cleanse and heal your blood vessels. One of the best swaps is a handful of raw, unsalted nuts, such as walnuts, almonds, or pistachios. These contain healthy fats that lower bad cholesterol and reduce inflammation. Another powerful alternative is fresh fruit rich in fiber, like apples or berries, which stabilize blood sugar and provide antioxidants that repair oxidative damage in the arteries. Fiber acts like a broom inside the bloodstream, sweeping away excess cholesterol before it can stick to your artery walls. Dark chocolate, in small amounts, can also be a satisfying snack that actually improves circulation by supporting the flexibility of blood vessels. Even something as simple as sliced cucumbers with hummus gives you protein, fiber, and healthy fats that work with your body instead of against it. What's fascinating is how quickly the body can begin to respond when you make these changes. Studies show that even within a few weeks of replacing refined, artery-damaging snacks with heart-friendly alternatives, seniors experience improvements in blood flow, lower markers of inflammation, and better cholesterol balance. The body is incredibly resilient, even after 60, but it depends on what you feed it. Your arteries may be decades old, but they are still living tissue, and they are constantly repairing, renewing, and responding to your diet. Think of your food choices as instructions to your arteries. Either stay flexible and clear, or become stiff and blocked. Every snack is a message to your heart, and when you choose wisely, you're giving your body the chance to heal. The reason many people don't realize the severity of this issue is that they've been told to watch out for obvious dangers like bacon, butter, or fried chicken, but rarely has anyone warned them about the so-called healthy snacks sitting on grocery shelves. Seniors are particularly vulnerable because these products are often marketed directly to them, with labels that say light, heart, smart, or reduced fat. Yet the reduced fat usually means added sugar, and the added sugar means more stress on your arteries. This marketing trap keeps many people unknowingly eating foods that silently sabotage their heart health. Breaking free from this trap is not about deprivation, but about empowerment. Once you see the reality behind the packaging, you can make small, smart swaps that taste good, satisfy cravings, and protect your heart. After 70, these 3 healthy drinks are poison for your lungs. Breathing should be effortless, but for many seniors, even simple activities like climbing stairs or walking across a room can leave them winded. The lungs, just like every other organ, go through natural changes with age. The air sacs become less elastic, the diaphragm weakens, and the overall capacity for oxygen exchange slowly declines. For those over 70, this makes the lungs more vulnerable, not only to environmental irritants like pollution and dust, but also to the foods and drinks consumed daily. Most people think of cigarettes or air quality when they imagine threats to their lungs. But few ever stop to consider how certain beverages, even ones that seem harmless or are marketed as healthy, can damage lung tissue, worsen inflammation, and increase the risk of chronic conditions such as COPD or pulmonary fibrosis. The danger doesn't always come from the obvious culprits. It often hides in drinks that seniors may rely on for comfort or energy, unknowingly putting their respiratory health at risk. One of the first drinks to consider is fruit juice, especially store-bought versions labeled as 100% natural or no added sugar. These drinks are marketed as healthy, and many seniors turn to them as a substitute for soda. But the truth is that fruit juice is concentrated sugar in liquid form. When you drink it, your blood sugar spikes almost immediately. This rapid surge fuels systemic inflammation, and the lungs are especially sensitive to inflammatory damage. High blood sugar creates an environment where advanced glycation end products, AGEs, form, molecules that stiffen tissues and reduce their elasticity. For the lungs, which depend on elasticity for proper air exchange, this can be devastating. Instead of breathing deeply and easily, the lungs become stiffer, less able to expand and contract, leading to shortness of breath and decreased endurance. Seniors often drink orange juice or apple juice with breakfast, believing it supports vitamin intake. But what they don't realize is that the excess sugar creates an invisible burden on their lungs every single day. The second healthy drink that harms seniors' lungs is diet soda or artificially sweetened beverages. These are often chosen by people trying to cut sugar and control weight, but the chemicals inside tell another story. Artificial sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose have been linked to gut microbiome disruptions, which in turn affect the immune system. A weakened or imbalanced immune system increases susceptibility to lung infections and reduces the body's ability to fight inflammation in the airways. Some studies also suggest that long-term consumption of diet soda is associated with reduced lung function and increased risk of respiratory issues. For seniors, this risk is amplified because their lung tissue is already more fragile. Beyond the artificial sweeteners, diet sodas are acidic, and this acidity can trigger acid reflux. Silent acid reflux is common in older adults, and it often goes unnoticed because it doesn't always cause heartburn. However, when stomach acid creeps up and enters the airways, it irritates the lungs, leading to chronic cough, wheezing, or even damage that resembles asthma. Seniors who drink these beverages, thinking they are a smarter choice than regular soda, may be setting themselves up for years of lung irritation without realizing the source. The third drink that many seniors believe is beneficial but can actually harm their lungs is flavored or sweetened milk alternatives, such as soy milk or almond milk sold in cartons. While plain, unsweetened versions can be healthy, The flavored varieties often contain added sugars, gums, and preservatives that contribute to inflammation. Sugar, once again, is the biggest offender, creating the same inflammatory cascade that stiffens lung tissue, but the additives also play a role. Thickening agents like carrageenan are known to irritate the digestive tract and can trigger immune responses that spill over into the respiratory system. For seniors who already have compromised lung function, even mild irritation can tip the balance toward chronic symptoms. Many switch to these milk alternatives after being told to avoid dairy for mucus or cholesterol reasons, but in doing so, they unknowingly trade one problem for another. Instead of protecting their lungs, the added sugars and chemicals slowly chip away at lung resilience. The real challenge for seniors is that these drinks are framed as healthy choices. Juices are marketed as natural sources of vitamins, diet sodas are positioned as weight-friendly, and plant-based milks are advertised as clean alternatives. At face value, they look like smart decisions, but for the lungs, the opposite is true. This disconnect between perception and reality is what makes them especially dangerous. People over 70 are often very careful with their diets, trying to do everything possible to maintain health and independence. They look for foods and drinks that appear supportive of their age and health concerns. Yet, it is exactly this demographic that becomes the most vulnerable to hidden traps, because the body cannot buffer the effects the way it once did. What could have been shrugged off at 40 or 50 may now create real damage to tissues already weakened by age. The lungs, unlike the heart, don't always get as much attention when it comes to diet. People think about blood sugar for diabetes, cholesterol for arteries, or calcium for bones, but very few make the connection between what they drink and how well they breathe. Yet the lungs are constantly exposed, and they rely on a delicate balance of oxygen exchange and tissue flexibility. Anything that fuels inflammation, stiffens tissue, or weakens immune defenses will take a direct toll on breathing. These so-called healthy drinks manage to do all three, creating an invisible but very real threat. The good news is that the body remains incredibly adaptive, even past 70. By removing or reducing these beverages and replacing them with supportive alternatives, seniors can give their lungs the space to heal and improve oxygen flow naturally. High creatinine. For worst foods that force you toward dialysis, when creatinine levels rise, it is not just a number on a lab report. It is a signal that the kidneys are under stress and struggling to filter waste from the blood. For people over 60, this issue becomes more common because kidney function naturally declines with age. Even in those without a history of kidney disease, the kidneys act as the body's filter system, clearing toxins, balancing electrolytes, and regulating blood pressure. When creatinine builds up, it means the filtration system is clogged and inefficient. And if the underlying damage is not addressed, the path can eventually lead to dialysis. What many seniors do not realize is that the foods they eat every single day can either lighten the kidney's load or push them closer to failure. There are 4 specific types of foods that are especially dangerous, and avoiding them can make a significant difference in protecting kidney health and keeping creatinine under control. The first category is red meat, particularly beef, lamb, and processed forms like sausages or deli meats. Red meat is high in protein, and while protein is essential for the body, excessive protein creates more waste products, including urea and creatinine, that the kidneys must process. For someone with already compromised kidney function, this extra load is like forcing a struggling water filter to handle muddy water non-stop. The saturated fats in red meat also increase inflammation and worsen cardiovascular health, which directly impacts the kidneys since blood flow is critical for their function. Processed meats make matters worse because they contain added salts, nitrates, and preservatives that spike blood pressure and cause fluid retention, two major stressors for kidneys already fighting to maintain balance. For seniors, even a few servings of red meat a week can accelerate kidney decline, especially when creatinine levels are already borderline high. The second group of harmful foods is high-sodium snacks and convenience meals. Chips, canned soups, frozen dinners, and even some breads and condiments are loaded with hidden salt. Sodium forces the kidneys to retain water in order to dilute it, which increases blood pressure and swells the workload on the filtration system. The delicate nephrons inside the kidneys, which are the microscopic filters, become damaged over time when they are forced to push against this constant pressure. The more sodium consumed, the harder the kidneys must work, and the more creatinine builds up in the blood. Many seniors rely on these foods for convenience or out of habit, not realizing how much salt they are consuming daily. Even foods that do not taste particularly salty may carry high sodium content, and this silent overload accelerates kidney stress. For someone trying to preserve kidney function, cutting down on sodium is one of the most powerful steps possible. The third dangerous food type for high creatinine is dairy, especially cheese, whole milk, and creamy desserts. Dairy is rich in phosphorus and protein, two elements that become problematic when kidneys are impaired. High phosphorus levels weaken bones and cause calcium to deposit in blood vessels, further straining circulation and kidney function. At the same time, the protein content adds to the waste load that must be filtered out. Cheese, in particular, is a double threat because it combines high protein with extremely high sodium, making it one of the most difficult foods for kidneys to manage. For seniors who grew up with dairy as a staple, the idea that it could harm kidney health often comes as a shock. But for those with rising creatinine levels, reducing or eliminating dairy products is often necessary to slow the progression toward dialysis. The fourth category is foods and drinks high in potassium, particularly when consumed in large amounts. Bananas, oranges, tomatoes, potatoes, and certain juices fall into this group. Potassium is a vital mineral that helps regulate heart rhythm and muscle contractions, but when the kidneys are not filtering properly, potassium builds up to dangerous levels in the blood. This condition, called hyperkalemia, can cause irregular heartbeats and even sudden cardiac arrest. For seniors with high creatinine, the kidneys are already under strain, and too much potassium becomes an added threat. The problem is that many of these foods are traditionally seen as healthy, and people are encouraged to eat more fruits and vegetables. While they are beneficial for most individuals, in the case of compromised kidneys, they can be toxic. Moderation and careful selection become critical, and it is often recommended that seniors with high creatinine levels work closely with their doctors to monitor potassium intake. The combination of these four categories creates a dangerous cycle. Red meat and dairy increase waste products, sodium forces fluid retention, and potassium overload destabilizes heart function. All of these effects compound the burden on kidneys that are already struggling to keep creatinine levels in check. When the kidneys cannot keep up, toxins accumulate in the blood, leading to fatigue, swelling in the legs and ankles, nausea, confusion, and eventually the need for dialysis. Dialysis is a life-saving treatment, but it is also demanding, time-consuming, and dramatically changes quality of life. Preventing or delaying the need for dialysis is a priority for anyone with high creatinine, and the foods chosen each day make a major difference. What makes this situation even more challenging is that many seniors are unaware that their diet is a hidden contributor. Doctors often warn about salt or advise cutting back on red meat, but the bigger picture is rarely explained. The truth is that kidneys are extremely sensitive to dietary changes, and small adjustments can translate into meaningful improvements in function. The foods to avoid may seem harmless in moderation, but for someone over 60 with declining kidney performance, even moderate amounts can push the organs past their limits. Seniors often believe that because they do not eat large portions, they are safe. But kidney health is about cumulative load over time, not just portion size in the moment. Understanding the worst offenders is the first step in making protective choices. By recognizing the hidden dangers of red meat, salty snacks, dairy, and potassium-rich foods, when creatinine is high, seniors can reduce the strain on their kidneys and support better filtration. The kidneys may be small organs, but their role is immense, and once damaged, they cannot regenerate. Protecting them requires awareness, discipline, and daily attention to what is on the plate and in the cup. Seniors, the bedtime habit that triggers inflammation overnight. After the age of 60, the body naturally becomes more sensitive to small lifestyle choices, and one of the most overlooked areas is what happens in the hours before sleep. Inflammation is a silent process that underlies many of the conditions seniors face: arthritis, heart disease, diabetes, memory decline, and even certain cancers. It is not always the result of genetics or unavoidable aging, but often the result of daily habits that quietly keep the body in a state of stress. While most people think of diet or exercise as the primary drivers of inflammation, bedtime behaviors have a surprising influence. The body heals and repairs itself during sleep, But if a harmful routine is repeated night after night, instead of reducing inflammation, sleep becomes a time when it actually rises, leaving seniors to wake up achy, stiff, or unusually fatigued. One of the most common bedtime habits that fuels inflammation is late-night snacking, especially on sugary or processed foods. Many seniors develop the habit of reaching for cookies, crackers, or even a bowl of cereal before bed. These foods spike blood sugar levels, and when blood sugar remains elevated during sleep, the body produces inflammatory molecules called cytokines. Instead of the body entering a restorative state, it remains in a subtle fight-or-flight mode, which triggers oxidative stress and inflammation in tissues throughout the body. Over time, this nightly routine can worsen joint pain, accelerate artery damage, and impair brain health. Even snacks that appear harmless, like toast with jam or a light granola bar, can have this effect because the body does not need extra energy when it is preparing to rest. Instead of being burned as fuel, the sugar floats in the bloodstream, sparking inflammatory reactions that slowly damage cells. Another destructive bedtime habit is excessive screen time. Many seniors spend the last hour of the evening watching television, scrolling on tablets, or using their phones. The blue light emitted from these devices suppresses melatonin, the hormone that regulates sleep. Without adequate melatonin, sleep becomes shallow and fragmented. Poor quality sleep itself is a direct trigger for inflammation, as the body relies on deep stages of rest to reduce inflammatory markers. But beyond disrupting sleep, blue light exposure also raises cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol at night should naturally fall to its lowest level, but screens keep it artificially elevated, signaling the body that it is still daytime. Elevated cortisol has a pro-inflammatory effect, fueling issues like high blood pressure, insulin resistance, and immune dysfunction. Seniors may believe that watching a little TV helps them wind down, but physiologically, the opposite occurs. Instead of calming the body, it keeps it inflamed. A third bedtime mistake that raises inflammation is going to bed dehydrated. Seniors are often told not to drink too much before bed to avoid nighttime trips to the bathroom, but this can backfire. Dehydration thickens the blood and reduces circulation, making it harder for nutrients and oxygen to reach tissues. This sluggish circulation contributes to joint stiffness and inflammatory flare-ups overnight. When the body does not have enough water, it also produces higher levels of histamine, a compound involved in allergic reactions that also stimulates inflammation. Seniors who wake up with dry mouth, leg cramps, or headaches are often experiencing the effects of overnight dehydration. Even mild dehydration is enough to trigger inflammatory pathways and increase the sensation of pain upon waking. Another harmful bedtime habit is the use of alcohol as a sleep aid. Many seniors believe a glass of wine or a small nightcap helps them fall asleep faster. And while it may initially create drowsiness, alcohol actually disrupts sleep cycles. It suppresses REM sleep and reduces the body's ability to release growth hormone, which is essential for cellular repair. At the same time, alcohol metabolism creates byproducts that are inflammatory in nature, placing extra strain on the liver and circulatory system. For those already living with arthritis, high blood pressure, or heart problems, this nightly ritual quietly fuels inflammation and worsens long-term outcomes. What feels like a harmless indulgence becomes a hidden driver of fatigue and pain the next day. Even something as simple as posture at bedtime plays a role. Seniors who fall asleep in awkward positions, such as sitting in a recliner, may unknowingly restrict blood flow and create pressure points that trigger localized inflammation. The body's tissues thrive on circulation during rest, and when circulation is compromised, small inflammatory responses occur in muscles and joints. This is why some seniors wake up with sore shoulders, stiff hips, or swollen ankles even when they have not been physically active. Over time, these nightly micro-injuries add up, making the body more prone to chronic inflammation and pain. The unifying theme across all of these habits is that the body relies on nighttime hours for restoration. Sleep is when inflammatory markers should naturally decrease, tissues should repair, and the immune system should recalibrate. But when habits like sugary snacks, late-night screens, dehydration, alcohol, or poor posture are repeated, they interfere with this healing process. Instead of waking up refreshed, seniors wake up inflamed, stiff, or mentally foggy, assuming it is just part of aging. In reality, These are signals that the body is being pushed into an inflammatory state overnight. Recognizing these triggers is powerful because they are not permanent conditions, but choices that can be adjusted. By addressing the root of bedtime inflammation, seniors can support better sleep, healthier joints, clearer thinking, and stronger overall resilience.